just 200 police officers. We're live again. That's more guns taken off the street and more arrests than when the department had 3,000 police officers 10 years ago. So we're doing more work, better work, with far fewer people. What we want to make sure of is, because we know the individuals who are caught carrying guns are the same individuals who are being shot and the same individuals who are doing the shooting. The numbers are the same. And I think there was a study that remains true today. About 66% of people who are caught with a gun one time are 66% likely to be shot and are 66 likely to be a shooter. Individuals caught with a gun twice and arrested twice are above 90% likely to be shot and over 90% likely to be a shooter. So it's all connected and interrelated. We have to change the thinking of why the individual thinks he or she needs to carry a gun in the first place. Because if you carry it, you're likely to use it or have it used against you. And what we want to see as a police department and as a city, we want to see people make better decisions of how to solve their conflict and not just think that they have to solve their problems and solve the conflict with the gun. And the conflict is usually over something very stupid and very, very violent. We want to make sure that if and when we make those arrests, that the individual, number one, doesn't come back out and commit the crime again. So we have to figure out how to change their thinking and help them not do that again, and then help them not go out and become a victim or the perpetrator of a crime. It's not just to arrest for the sake of arrest. We want to change the behavior.
And let me also piggyback on that. When I talk about sending people to jail for guns, this isn't something I just came up with. Johns Hopkins did a study. They looked at certain consequences with the number one thing to stop people from having that type of behavior to carry illegal guns. So if I'm telling you that there will be a certain consequence, I want you to understand, I don't want to lock you up, I don't want to put you in jail, but I need you to think twice before you carry that gun. Because what's happening as of yesterday, you have high school students on lunch break and someone with a gun shoots and kills them, takes that life. We have to do something because enough is enough. And right now, what I see happening are the illegal guns. We're not saying we just want to lock you up and throw away the key. What we're saying is leave your illegal guns at home. Do not touch them. Do not take them. Matter of fact, leave them wherever they were.
If I may add to that, we spend a lot of time talking about the person carrying the gun, the person pulling the trigger, but we also have to talk about people who are facilitating these guns coming into the city. Whether they're the traditional guns or whether they're those guns that you can order on the internet and have delivered to your front door without anyone knowing, which can never be traced because it has no serial number. We have to tackle it all. And in partnership with the state, with our federal partners, we are doing that work. But it is hard, but it does require, this is the partnership with the community, it does require in our efforts to enforce the community effort to inform and to change the thinking of why you gotta have it in the first place. Much of that change of thinking will come with consequences. Some of it will have to be education and services to offer people a better life and a pathway away from this life.
Okay, my next question is for Ms. Cummings. I need you to identify part of your responsibility as the OIG, and do you, in your office, conduct audits? Is that part of your job or responsibility? If it is not, do you know who does?
Waste fraud interview in Baltimore City, focused on financial. We do not do audits. The auditors of Baltimore City is in the comptroller's office. He has 40 staff members do audits for Baltimore City. When I started, I had 5 people. I had to decide what was going to be the best for Baltimore City, and it was to do investigations. We do investigations of money. We follow the law, and we get tips from the citizens and employees and other people that does contractors, employees, that inspectors doing their job. They'll notify us obligations based on that. My deputy is here, who's my prayer person, Yvonne. She wants to develop an evaluations program where we can actually look at certain departments. Like we did a joint with Baltimore County about the water system. And that ended up being a big report that we issued because a lot of problems with the water. And as a result of that, it ended up a lot of money was recovered because we were charging people for the wrong water, and people weren't being charged in large area, large buildings weren't being charged at all. Whereas other people, of course, were both being focused on their house for not having water. So we looked at that of the citizen type of complaint. We do per se, but are looking at how things are, how the process is. And the other thing that we also do is we are part of the ethics program here in Baltimore City. And that was in my office in 2019. So once it came over, the ethics board has actually become much more invigorated, and we are trying to, because without ethics, you don't have a strong government. And we needed to get the type of focus, because we have to do financial disclosures, we have to do the lobbyists, all those things, all this money comes in the city, we have to evaluate all of that. And a lot of times, that's why we fought so hard to make sure that the citizens were going to be on the advisory board of the Inspector General and not the people that I had to arrest with. I was realizing that obvious conflict of interest. And so now the citizens are actually applying to be on the advisory board, and that's happening right now. So this office, I will say, the important thing you mentioned before, we try to be responsive. Even with, we have one person that just takes care of the hotline. And they actually, the entire time through the pandemic, we actually, if we can't help you, we tell you where to go. So a lot of times you just can't even get a person to be interested in what you have. I mean, we work for you. So we try to be responsive. And obviously by the way the hotline continues to increase, I think that my office put the citizens first, because really, we truly work for you, and you are where we get our cases and how we access them.
In the investigative mode, some of those cases are sent to the Attorney General's office, is that correct?
Absolutely.
So you're going to tell them the fraud unit and the Attorney General's office?
Yeah.
If I could just briefly describe and I do say limited criminal functions in our office. We have a few of them. One is criminal appeals. We represent the state's attorneys across the state when their cases are on appeal in the Appellate Court of Maryland and the Supreme Court of Maryland. So we've got a really close relationship and partnership there. I mentioned before the Criminal Investigation Division, sort of 4 areas. I won't go into deep on all. One is Medicaid fraud. People file fraudulent claims in Medicaid, health claims. Some of that rises to the level of criminal conduct. We look at that. A limited set of environmental crimes, illegal dumping, the intentional storage of hazardous materials, things like that. There are 4 categories there. The other is, and really the biggest and probably most relevant to what we're talking about now, is that organized crime unit that I mentioned. Now, with that authority, I can't come into Baltimore City today or tomorrow or next week and start investigating, prosecuting crime. I can't do that. I can't do that unless I'm in partnership with your state's attorney. What I can do, and I still do it in partnership, but I can initiate it, is multi-jurisdictional crime. We're talking about narcotics trafficking. The commissioner was talking about the number of unlawful guns he's taken off the streets. So many of them are coming from outside of Baltimore City. So my organized crime unit is working with U.S. attorneys, states attorneys in different jurisdictions, law enforcement in different levels in different jurisdictions. We have that multi-jurisdictional gun trafficking, narcotics trafficking, human trafficking, both sex and labor. So we've got that. And again, I need to double that size because with the volume that we've been hearing today about guns and drugs, Mr. Bates does not do multi-jurisdictional. I do that. The U.S. attorney will do that in the state of Maryland. But together we work to make that happen. So those are the areas in which the Office of the Attorney General is investigating, prosecuting different types of crimes.
So my next group of questions, I've divided them into categories. I need you to write them down. I can't do that because if you see what I have here, someone will give you a card. I need you to understand that everyone here has an important burning question. And y'all see me reading, I'm trying to read everything. My business, everything in here is the ones you guys we've asked. We are going to have it opened up at the end in 15 minutes. And at that time, if you can, where's Mr. Giordano? You see Mr. Giordano and tell him, he's in the lobby. Mr. Giordano, forward and see this young lady. In the meantime, this next group of questions, they were all about the same thing. Each of these that I have in my hand, they either talk about their particular community, a specific corner, they talk about a gas station, a shopping center, this staff, they're all saying the same thing. And as a federal prosecutor, we have a name for that. They were hot spots. And they want to know. We know where they are. We know what happens there. Mr. Bates, what are we going to do? Mr. Commissioner, what are we going to do? Mr. Barron, what? I'll tell you where I go to get it. That shouldn't. You all know what I'm saying. I raised my kid. I know where the hot spots is, and I can walk to Evanston Village Shopping Center. What are you going to do?
One of the things that we have to do is, that's why we're here tonight to talk about how we work collaboratively. State's Attorney's Office, we don't go out and make the arrest, the police do. But the police work, put together a good case, then they bring it to the State's Attorney's Office and it falls apart. Then they're demoralized. But we have to work together. So we know where the hot spot is. Then what we do is we sit together and talk about a plan. One of the things we can do is to decide, okay, we know this person, that person is a drug organization. We see violence, we see guns. Then we can sit down together with our various divisions and find out wiretap who has the resources necessary to be able to make this plan and effectuate and make it work. And that's not just the State's Attorney's Office, the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General's Office, along with the police department. The police will be that frontline unit, that frontline division that will execute the plan, and it will be one of us or all of us together that will prosecute the plan. For instance, some of these individuals may be a RICO case, and that's where the government comes. They have a big case, and they charge you as being a drug organization or an organization that's doing violent crime. But let's say there are a couple of individuals that weren't necessarily qualified to be prosecuted federally, and we can come on, bring you stateside. That way, no one gets away, and then everybody can be held accountable. standpoint, that's where I look at it. Commissioner, what are you thinking about?
Well, I can go wholeheartedly. We know where they are too. We still make a lot of drug arrests. And we go after and make arrests of drug dealers all the time. Persons who are just in possession of drugs has been one of the crimes that has not been prosecuted. So we had to adjust policy on how we go about catching drug dealers if we're not arresting the drug people who are in possession of it. We know where they are, but we are working right now. We have, with everyone on this state, not Inspector General, but with all of the prosecutors, we have joint investigations underway at multiple parts of the city. You may not know about them, and we take those organizations down. Do others rise up the next day or the same day and take over? Absolutely. But we take them down and we arrest them. The issue is back to what the debate opened up. When these young men and some young women get arrested, and they are not, and they are not given halfway away, they come out and do this. And so while we're arresting people, they're coming out on the same day, on the same corner, sometimes the same day. And so it is all of us working together with every part of the criminal justice system. And when we say enforcement, for far too long, enforcement has only been a conversation when we think the police interaction. Enforcement is the police encounter all the way up through the arrest, the prosecution all the way through the conviction, and the incarceration all the way to that person's rehabilitation. All of that is enforcement. All of that has not always existed. And so I'm just too excited to be here with all of our partners to talk about how we together, with you, go out and make it better. But yes, do we need more enforcement? Do we need more of it? Can we go and get more people? Yes. Can we take down more organizations? Absolutely. Are we working to do that as we grow and expand our capacity and do more with less? Absolutely. But now we have a way where we're going to see that our work has meaning, and our officers, hopefully we want to change the behavior once again. When we arrest somebody, we want to see the behavior change. It's not our intention to see them go to prison for life. We want to see them stop doing what they're doing. We want to see the improvement of our community.
I'm going to move along a little bit. The next group of questions all have to do with diversionary programs. In other words, what programs? I think Mr. Barron talked about some things that their LECCs were doing in their U.S. Attorney's Office and the collaboration there. Mr. Bates, I know you have some programs that you want to talk about, things that you'd like to do. There's a program called Need to Be More. There are internships. There are diversionary programs that the community's been hearing about. Can you elaborate on what you're talking about with regard to diversionary programs and other programs? If you're going to ask the police department to go after those low-level crimes, what are you going to do with the young people that may be given tickets or arrested for those cases?
One of the things we're looking at all the programs that the state's attorney's office has. You mentioned Amy B. Moore. So that was a program that would deal with individuals that are convicted of a crime. But when we began to look at it, my first day in office, we realized there was only 17 people being serviced, but there were almost $500,000 in salaries. So I don't think that is a real diversionary program. What we do is we're going to partner with everybody. And that specifically is looking at the mayor's office of neighborhoods, because they have the resources. For instance, one of the things officers realize, a number of individuals, we're not talking about just locking you up for drug possession, but once there's enforcement of drug possession, well, why don't we divert you into drug treatment programs? That's not happening. In 2012, there were over 585 people in drug treatment programs. Last year, there were only 80. Think about that, right? There were over 500 people that weren't being serviced, but yet overdose had jumped from 340 400 to over 1,000. So those types of diversionary programs help us. But we also have to understand what we're doing about returning citizens. Returning citizens are individuals when you look at organizations such as, see someone urban Lazarus program. These are programs that are already out there in the community. When you also look at her resiliency programs dealing with sex workers and what they do, those are the individuals and organizations that we want to partner with because we're not leading the charge, we're part of the process to help change. It's not about locking everybody up. So we talk about going back and saying we're enforcing low-level quality life crimes. It's about giving the police the tools and toolbox, but also making sure now these individuals that are crying out for help with their actions can be diverted into the treatment necessary and diverted into the programs necessary that they need.
All right, I'm going to get my thoughts on it down. Next category of questions. They're all about vulnerable adults. And the question involves homeless. How do you handle them as part of public safety? Chief Harrison. And any alternative if it relates to loitering in public places, Mr. Bates? And how do you handle doing what's needed to help the other vulnerable adults who may be seniors? Either one of those groups may have health issues. Either one of those groups may have mental health issues. Either one of those groups may have housing issues. As state attorney, is there a role you have?
We'll always have a role, but it comes to like homes. It comes to things like mental illness and other. Police, what we don't want to do is criminalize individuals for being home. Individuals for having mental crisis. We can support, but the mayor's office has an entity and an office that delivers frontline support to all of those individuals. We can play a support role, but what we don't want to do, what we have done in the past and have got in trouble for, and trying not to do again, is to enforce that and make that an enforcement issue.
How about beating them
the
up?
police the solution to a problem that we're not trying to force, not for law enforcement.
Thank you. Mr. Bates?
You know, one of the things we talk about quality like crimes, talk about loitering trespass. Look, we have these young individuals, some of them young, some a little older. Why don't we do some community service, something very positive, we're holding an individual accountable. That's one of the ways you look at it. Now, one of the things that's also important I talked about is what we're going to do about our older adult population. I see Ms. Sarah Matthews out here. She's been a major advocate for the older adult population. And sitting down and talking about the older adult population, they've been totally marginalized and forgotten in our city. One of the things I talked about is going to the General Assembly asking for money to have an older adult division. This division needs to focus on a lot of the crime that we see in Inspector General. Inspector General, I'd love to hear, some of the insight that you have in reference to the vulnerability of the older adult population, because they're being traumatized. Their life savings is being taken and stolen, and we don't talk about it. And so for us, that older adult division, that's what we'll focus on. But a lot of the work's already being done by the Inspector General.
I think elder abuse financially is a major focus, and it needs to become a major focus in Washington City. Back when I was with Ms. Jessie, I actually wrote up an elder abuse unit, and it was actually used in Anne Arundel County. And I think now's the time for that unit to actually happen in Baltimore City.
That's the alley of my sister's place.
So,
Like I mentioned that there were 4 areas of investigation, prosecution, and I guess nobody will keep track of my calendar. So, the 4th one is the new authority not all sometimes family members and authority, both on action, discover criminal conduct. But admittedly, I mean, some things that seniors can do, all of us can do, frankly, be much more aware of what dams look like. Right now, just from personal experience, 3-4 weeks, say, oh, my account, this and other thing. I found my conversation with someone, and I'm about to give up some stuff, information, and I'm like, I just got to let the attorney general, and I'm falling in his trap. So it's out there, it's real. We have to do a better job of educating, getting into, particularly like senior centers and different community venues where we're educating how to avoid a lot of these snares.
Ms. Brown, would you talk about the effect of using federal resources to help seniors, especially like theft of the mail and that type of fraud, and how the feds work?
Sure, it's a subject near and dear to my heart, so much so that after less than a year, my office has been a national elder abuse and elder justice strike force. So we are not just of our office, but with national resources from DC and elsewhere, we are going after anyone that we want, any organization that would dare abuse and misuse and take advantage of our senior citizens.
That's right. That's right.
All right. I have one big category that remains, and then I'm going to hand it over. And okay. So we've already covered this. We talked about diversity programs, apprenticeship programs, and the like. But I specifically have questions here about how, and all of you are basically covering this area, but there's something called integrity units, okay? The police department has internal investigations. Mr. Brown has already talked about the fact that there are tests that they do on a state level. Mr. Bates, they may not know about the case integrity, conviction integrity unit. And I don't know if anyone knows about the type of investigations that the U.S. Attorney. Will each of you just briefly describe the unit that you have in your office and what they do? Starting with Chief Harrison.
Thank you. So we have what's called, what was renamed from Internal Affairs to the Public Integrity Bureau, which handles both citizen complaints against police officers, against our members, or self complaints against our own members. We handle both of those. We have doubled, more than double the size of that unit by making it a priority, elevated the position from a direct position to a deputy commissioner position.
How much money?
Because that person speaks on my behalf, and that person can report directly to the federal judge.
How much money they get for it?
That was the purpose of elevating the leadership to a deputy commissioner position, so that no one else in the agency can override a decision about discipline. And that person, when they speak about what's happening with discipline, they have the equivalent authority of any other deputy commissioner or the authority that I have. Within the Public Integrity Bureau, we have an ethics unit that handle the more intense or more sensitive cases, or covert cases that have to be worked against our own members. From the Department of Justice, overlooking everything that happens in the public integrity.
And if you determine your officers have a mental health, a drug, or alcohol issue there,
we have an officer, and when we find that, we make referrals for officers to get help. When officers self-report that they need help, we allow them the time off without punishment and without taking away their credentials and their authority as a police officer, so that we can remove the stigma of coming forward to say you need help. And we have had many officers to take advantage of it, because it has been a stigma, either with mental illness, with addictions of different types, with family problems that cross over into work performance. And so we have to be very careful. We're losing weight. We have one of the best in the nation in the Baltimore Police Department. If we are a healthy police these services to the community.
On with the question that you asked about sort of integrity units looking at ongoing conduct. But I do want to take this opportunity to say that, as many of you know, before I was Attorney General, which wasn't that long ago, but we do cases from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Remember, in the George Floyd case, the former Maryland Chief Medical Examiner testified in outrageous fashion, and his conclusions that the defense attorneys were using were just found outlandish and outrageous by the entire universe of chief medical examiners. It caused us in Maryland to look at a large universe of cases that involved based on the perhaps even false from the testimony of the former chief medical examiner.
I want to do one more follow-up. Thank you, sir. One more follow-up. In an act of transparency and accountability, one of the first things I did, and I don't want to put the IG on the spot, but because we knew we had to revamp and redesign and create accountability within our own integrity bureau. When there is a conflict because a complaint has come in against a high-ranking member, or a conflict where we are investigating our own and there's some perceived conflict, one of the first things I did was ask the inspector to take and investigate those things, all the way up to investigations and complaints against me. What? And we have a memorandum of understanding that any complaint of a command member or higher that comes into the organization, we will not investigate those on our own, but we ask the Inspector General. And when there are conflicts with our own, and we have to have someone else to do it, she has agreed, and we have a memorandum of understanding, and there have already been several that they have done, just to eliminate the perception of nepotism in the police department.
Integrity. A couple ways of looking at it. Not only the Inspector General, but we also have our Police Integrity Division that looks at what's been going on, some of the potential criminal complaints that have been lodged against the Baltimore City Police Department. We sit down, we'll look at it, and we prosecuted, and we went ahead and prosecuted and hold those officers accountable who break the law. So we have that division in Baltimore City State.
I'll be to see you tomorrow.
We also will have another division called Criminal Integrity. And so they look at the criminal investigation. One of the things they look at is past convictions to make sure they were done properly. One of the things you hear about a lot of times, or maybe hear an officer may have lied or fabricated evidence, we will look at that particular case to see what happened.
Even if they
withheld a piece of evidence to sit down and say, hey, it wasn't this person who did the shooting or the murder, it was somebody else. And years later, someone else finally comes forward. We have a division that will sit down, we will look at that, and we find that it's there. They'll bring it from the public defender's office, defense side. They'll bring us that information. We'll do an investigation. If that investigation shows that individual should not be in jail, then we will go ahead and petition the court to make sure that individual's conviction is guilty.
How about the grand jury?
You know what? No, you know what? Let me just say this. When you have rules, they apply to everyone. And I said I would give you a chance, but it's not now. I want to finish up with this category and let everyone finish answering this last question. And if you would be respectful.
Good evening, everybody. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it took me 2 years to get right here. My brother's story is going to be told today. My brother, Tamar Anderson, was murdered January 20th, Inauguration Day, 2021. I have been trying to fight for my brother and get answers for my brother. My brother was brutally murdered by a white man that was riding around the city like me now, taking people's lives. Not only is this white guy a suspect for my brother's murder, but he's also a suspect for 2 other murders in the city of Baltimore. He's been arrested in another state. They haven't brought him back. Yes, and you're absolutely right. And like I said, it took me 2 years. They kept telling me, wait till Mosby get out of jail. They kept saying, I'm not trying to.
I want you to go ahead and see that gentleman walking towards you. I want you to give me your name, your information, and we'll go ahead and figure out what's going on. We'll sit down and have a conversation. Okay?
All right.
We're gonna start being matters. We ain't gonna be talked about, we're gonna be talked to. This is the community, and this is the community event.
How we feel about our loved ones have been murdered.
In this
On
city.
hold. We've been trying to talk to Mr. Bates.
And I'm just gonna say this to everyone that's in this room, and I need you to hear what I'm saying.
No, we need
There is
you
a
to understand. We need you to understand. We're not holding him accountable. We are not.
What are you saying?
But we are not holding him accountable. What we are saying, we want him to know what's going on. We are not holding Mr. Bates accountable. He is the new state attorney, and we welcome him. But what we are trying to say is June 21st, 2021. No, it's not. But you need to know and understand how a mother of a murder victim feels every night. You don't sleep with me and see the pain and emotion that I have gone through for the last year and a half. And this is our opportunity to talk to Mr. Bates, the new elected state's attorney, to tell him where we are with things. And you're not doing that. You're not doing that.
Listen to this is what I want. I can only imagine her.
But no, this is what I want to say in front. I'm listening.
We will have a conversation. We're just not going to have this second.
I understand, and trust me, this has nothing to do with you.
If you just go, there's a gentleman.
It has nothing to do with you. It's letting you know how mothers of murder victims are feeling today. You don't feel our pain because you go home to your child every night. My son is laying in a pine box and he can't get up from that. And then to let you know, I had not a brown or a black guy who murdered my son, but a white guy who came from his cozy condo in Parkville, Maryland, and stabbed him to death. Do you know what that knock on the door from Baltimore City Police feel like? No, you don't. Do you know the pain that we go through every day? No, you don't. So yes, about the community, it is about the people who suffering every single day that you're not giving us the opportunity to tell how we really feel. What about the psychiatrists and the mental breakdowns that we go through? Nobody knows that. See, when you are considered a nobody, this is how they do you. They want to shut you up. They don't want you to be heard, and they want you to take what they have us to give. And I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's not. And I like the way he's coming out swinging. You're going to jail. I love that. But when we have town halls, it's for the community. It's for us. It's for us. But you feel it better when it's coming from the family. And it shows you have no empathy. No empathy. You have no empathy at all.
And they're all about victims, being a victim, being victimized, being harassed, having your kids
Why don't you
murdered.
sometimes go to these funerals of young black men every single day, 5, 6, 7 times a day. Ma'am, what?
You don't know how many funerals of
I don't
young
wanna
black
hear it.
men I've gone to that I'm not even related to. And you are right. I have a daughter who's alive, but I participate on a grassroots
We're not
group
in your
called.
courtroom.
I
We're not in your courtroom.
I'm part of a group called Stop the Mothers from Crying. If you're a grassroots person, you know that organization. They go into the schools and work with the traumatized kids who had family members murdered.
We will never know what a mother goes through of a child of a murder victim until you walk in their shoes.
Cares about it. And let him tell you.
I thank you for saying, and I'm sorry for the loss. It's 8 o'clock right now. We will have that opportunity to have that conversation. Everybody in here, listen, everybody here is following what we have to do. We have to show respect with one another. And I understand it hurt you. When you and I will have that conversation. But right now, we want to go ahead and start this thing on a tremendous high. All of us are in this together. And you allow us to do the work that we need to do. If you do your job, all do your job, we can begin to allow you to heal. You'll never have that child that might get there and understand. I'm sorry for you. I will continue to pray for the victims, homicide victims. The reason I ran was because I saw 2 black men murdered. And that is why I have decided to focus on illegal handguns. Not because I want to put black men in jail, but because they're committing the crime, carrying these guns, killing people who look like you and your son every day. So for me, I will hear you. I heard and I will listen. We will have our opportunity. And the young lady right there will sit and talk to you from our office, okay, ma'am? I will continue to think about you and your family. We will talk. Thank you.
You'll come up, because you're right, at the age. And if I were just to tell you that this staff of 20 is about what are you going to do with the victims of crime? What are you going to do with the unit that deals with victims when they have to testify, when people have to come to court? Please, the closing remarks, if you could address that, then I'm done.
First of all, I want to thank Judge Hurd, Wanda Hurd, for doing a phenomenal job. I would also like to thank all the panelists who've been here tonight, taking the opportunity to listen to you. I want to thank Pastor Peter Smith, the church, for opening their doors. But most of all, I want to thank you, the citizens that came out, when you watched, when you sent your questions, we wrote questions for thank you for part of this conversation. Now, for my office, Attorney's office, one of the things we realized as victim witness, that division needed a little bit of change. We're going to we'll work to make that change happen. But the police will make the arrest. We'll put together the case to prosecute it. We also need the community to be a part. See, the community, they're seeing what's happening. They're understanding what's happening. They watch what's happening. We recognize that you're afraid to come and testify and give us that information to talk to the police, and then you hide, you run away. I understand, I get that, because you don't feel safe. Well, part of us joining together is to do everything we can to help you feel safe. The U.S. Attorney's Office has money to keep victims safe, the Attorney General's office, and the police department, and my office. We have to redefine the way in which we deal with victims and witnesses. But the community, you also have to do your part as well. And when we talk about partnership and building bridges, it's building bridges with the community and all of us to allow us to put together those cases so we get mothers like her to justice, to move, and hopefully begin to remove the pain that she's feeling. And we have to work together. It's not going to be simple. It's not going to be easy. There is absolutely no quick fix to this. And there's a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. But at the end of the day, guess what? It's our community. We have to make a conscious decision of where you want to live and how do you want to live. And personally, for me, I ran because I did not want to raise my daughter in a community where guns and violence was everyday accepted. And I think everybody in this room is here because you want to be a part of the change. You're not going to be a part of the change if you don't respect each other. are partners. And we're going to partner with everybody up here to be a part of that change. Been there 3 days. I now know where the bathroom is. It's going to take me a little while, but we're going to work. And we will make that change, but we have to do it together. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to take this enthusiasm. I want to understand. When we start putting the children, some of your kids away in jail, you'll be angry. I want you to remember the same hurt and pain that mother felt when you sit there and complain about the arrest. Because that mother is crying out because she's hurt and pain. Accountability, and that's starting right now, right here with everybody on the stage. Thank you so much. We'll make sure we continue looking.
Anyone's interested in this, it is live stream, so if you did not report it, and everyone stop where you are and bow your heads, so we can prepare.
No, tomorrow you get this in the thing.
Mr. Bates. Mr. Bates.
So we can say prayer and get out of here.
Just as we are, okay? I'm grateful for your presence, I'm grateful for your behavior, I'm grateful for the respect that we've shown each other as a community. I need to say this to you, the restrooms are to your left. The gates are open on both ends. It'd be helpful if we could get somebody from the police department to help us get out on Belvedere, stop the traffic so we can get out on Belvedere. Ramblewood, both ways. You decide which way you're going, all right? And again, we want to bow. We enter with prayer. We've had a good, not only fellowship, but informative gathering, respectful. If it was some ugly stuff, it would be on the news in big time. But this was very orderly. It's the first of its kind that I know about. Let's bow together and pray that we can leave here safely and arrive safely. Father, we thank you. It's our privilege just to call you Father. We thank you for your presence in our midst. We thank you for this gathering. We pray now that everything we have said and done will be pleasing to you and effective for your people. Bless us as we depart this place. Let us journey in safety. Let us arrive safely and find our loved ones, our homes, blessed and kept by you. Rest us tonight and raise us in the morning that we might go forth, committed to doing the right thing toward one another and the right thing before you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Go in his peace.
Go in peace. I'm just good at what I do. I'm encouraging other people to be like me.